The first warning came from the sky, but it brought no rain, only lightning. Lightning over dry forests, lightning over open grassland, lightning over communities already surrounded by fuel. One strike became a flame. One flame became a running front. And dozens of fires appeared almost together. Roads closed, power failed, families left with minutes to decide what mattered most. Smoke swallowed entire horizons, and near Nispelem, Washington, fire approached a cemetery. Chief Joseph is buried there. The flames came dangerously close. The cemetery survived. Much of the land surrounding it did not. Then the national firefighting system reached its limit. America entered its highest possible wildfire readiness level. The latest federal situation report, issued on August 2nd, placed the United States at National Preparedness Level 5. Officials were tracking 99 uncontained large fires, 18 new large incidents, and nearly 28,000 firefighters and support personnel assigned across the country. There is no readiness category above Level 5. That does not mean every firefighter, engine, or aircraft in America has already been deployed. It means demand has become so intense across several regions that each new request must be weighed against another active emergency. A helicopter sent to Oregon cannot simultaneously protect homes in Washington, Idaho, Montana, or Colorado. The national table listed 576 crews, 715 engines, and 212 helicopters. Those resources supported 141 incidents covering nearly 2.93 million cumulative acres. Behind them are dispatchers, pilots, mechanics, medics, meteorologists, logistics teams, and fire managers whose availability is as important as the visible crews. The crisis has become serious enough for the United States to bring in assistance from Australia and New Zealand. 1 international incident management team and 59 additional fire line management specialists were assigned to the Northwest, giving exhausted American teams experienced support in planning, aviation operations, safety, communications, and command. Military aviation has also been activated. 4 C-130 aircraft equipped with the modular airborne firefighting system were positioned in Oregon and California to support operations nationally. These aircraft release retardant, but their drops do not extinguish a wildfire. Their purpose is to slow fire behavior and buy ground cruise time. The Pacific Northwest is absorbing the heaviest pressure. Federal reporting listed 52 active incidents across the Northwest area. More than 2.1 million cumulative acres, 403 crews, 173 engines, 121 helicopters, and approximately 8,600 personnel. Oregon and Washington are not dealing with one disaster. They are managing an entire network of disasters at once. Wildfire response depends on specialized teams. A local department may attack a new ignition, but a large complex can require aviation coordinators, fire behavior analysts, logistics units, mapping specialists, medical support, and command for thousands of people across a changing perimeter. When many incidents demand those teams simultaneously, the system begins triage. Managers prioritize life safety, evacuation routes, communities, critical infrastructure, expected fire growth, and the likelihood that a particular resource can change the outcome. A remote fire may cover more land, yet receive fewer crews than a smaller fire near homes. Oregon now contains several fires so large that each would dominate national attention during a quieter season. The Roe Creek complex has expanded beyond 313,000 acres south of Fossil. The latest report placed it at 55% containment, with more than 2,000 personnel assigned and thousands of additional acres added during the previous reporting period. Containment is often misunderstood. 55% containment does not mean 55% of the fire has been extinguished. It means crews believe completed control line can hold along roughly that portion of the perimeter under anticipated conditions. Large sections inside the perimeter may continue burning, throwing smoke and producing heat for days or weeks. A fire can gain acreage after containment improves as mapping changes, interior islands burn, or wind pushes an unsecured edge into new fuel. A calm morning briefing can become an urgent afternoon evacuation. What matters most is what the fire is doing at that moment. Near the Roe Creek complex, the Big Grass Fire has burned more than 307,000 acres. Federal reporting placed it at 19% containment, with nearly 700 personnel, 10 crews, 82 engines, and 6 helicopters assigned. It is a reminder that open rangeland can produce a fire emergency as complex as a forested mountain. Grass can ignite and carry flame extraordinarily quickly. Under strong wind, a front may cross open ground faster than engines can reposition on rough rural roads. What appears distant can reach a ranch, highway, power corridor, or community before residents understand how rapidly the fire has accelerated. Remote does not mean unimportant. Rangeland fires destroy grazing areas, fencing, wildlife habitat, watersheds, utility systems, equipment, and years of work. They can force ranchers to move livestock under smoke and darkness while county roads fill with emergency vehicles and visibility collapses. The Coleman Creek fire has grown beyond 251,000 acres. and remained at 0% containment in the August 2nd report. It was showing extreme behavior with wind-driven runs and long-range spotting while threatening residences and energy infrastructure east of Ventura. Long-range spotting is one of the most dangerous signs fire managers watch. Burning material can rise inside a smoke column, travel beyond roads or fire lines, and ignite new fuel far ahead of the visible front. A defensive line that appeared secure can suddenly have active fire on both sides. The shingle fire had passed 67,000 acres and was only 10% contained. Hundreds of personnel, multiple crews, engines, and helicopters were working the incident after structures were lost and communities faced evacuation pressure. In country with limited routes, one wind shift can change which road remains safe. The bench fire on the Warm Springs Reservation had also burned more than 67,000 acres. Containment had reached 52%, but numerous residences and energy infrastructure remained threatened, and closures were still in effect. Firefighters were dealing with timber, brush, flanking flames, backing fire, and groups of trees torching together. On tribal land, damage cannot be reduced to buildings and acreage. Fire can move through burial grounds, food gathering areas, hunting territory, culturally important vegetation, community institutions, and landscapes tied to generations of memory. Some losses can be rebuilt, others cannot be replaced by an insurance payment or federal grant. The Grasshopper Fire north of Sportsman Park was another major concern. It had burned more than 26,000 acres, remained at 0% containment, and required more than 800 personnel. Active fire behavior included uphill runs, flanking, and backing, while structures and critical infrastructure remained threatened. The technical language sounds distant, but each term carries direct consequences. An uphill run means flames are accelerating with terrain. Flanking means fire is spreading along its sides. Torching means individual trees or groups of trees are igniting rapidly and throwing embers above the surface fire. Washington faces the same resource pressure, and the Kaiser Canyon fire remains one of the most painful incidents of the season. It began near Nespelem on July 16th after lightning ignited dry vegetation on the Colville Reservation. FEMA approved federal firefighting assistance the following day because the incident threatened to overwhelm local capacity. By August 2nd, Kaiser Canyon had burned more than 134,000 acres. Federal reporting listed 38% containment, more than 1,000 personnel, 20 crews, 76 engines, 2 helicopters, and 44 structures lost. The fire was still expanding after weeks of operations. At one stage, flames moved close enough to Nespelem for residents to watch the smoke column rise directly above nearby ridges. Homes were threatened, families were displaced, roads closed, and culturally significant territory burned across the reservation. The danger was immediate and historical. South of the town, the cemetery containing Chief Joseph's grave became one of the clearest symbols of the emergency. Flames approached the area and burned surrounding land, but the cemetery survived. That narrow escape did not erase what had already been lost around it. Chief Joseph's story is tied to displacement, resistance, survival, and the struggle to protect Nez Perce people and their homeland. The threat to his resting place, therefore, carried meaning far beyond a single plot of land. It showed how wildfire can endanger history itself, not only modern structures. The Kaiser Canyon fire also demonstrates why lightning outbreaks are so difficult to control. A single storm can create multiple ignitions across remote terrain. Some fires are detected immediately. Others smolder inside trees, roots, or deep organic material before emerging when heat, wind, and low humidity align. Northwest of Leavenworth, the Little Giant Fire is another major threat. It had grown beyond 31,000 acres, remained at 0% containment, and had more than 1,200 personnel assigned. Reports described crowning, long-range spotting, and uphill runs while structures and critical infrastructure were threatened. Crowning occurs when flames move through the tops of trees instead of remaining mainly near the ground. Once a fire enters the canopy under strong wind, its speed and intensity can increase dramatically. Aircraft may become less effective, ground access can become unsafe, and embers can travel well ahead of the main front. The Sinlahaken fire west of Tonasket had exceeded 36,000 acres with 0% containment. Hundreds of personnel were assigned as the fire produced extreme behavior and threatened communities. The Modrite fire southwest of Inchelium had also surpassed 40,000 acres, with structures lost and closures still affecting the region. New incidents near Spokane made the situation more volatile. The Old Trails, Autumn Lane, Fairview, Mitre Rock, and Hudspeth fires were reported with wind-driven runs, crowning, spotting, threatened residences, evacuations, and road closures. Some were still small compared with the giant Oregon complexes, but they were burning close to people. A smaller fire near a populated area can consume resources faster than a much larger remote incident. Engines must defend individual properties, law enforcement must manage evacuation routes, utility crews may need to shut down power, and aircraft may be requested to prevent the fire from entering denser neighborhoods. This is the arithmetic of preparedness level 5. Every crew assigned to one expanding perimeter is unavailable for another ignition. Every aircraft has maintenance requirements. Every pilot has duty limits. Every incident management team must rotate before exhaustion begins affecting judgment. The cause behind much of the Northwest escalation was not one enormous storm, but two major lightning events during July. Federal Predictive Services reported that activity accelerated rapidly after July 14th, pushing the national preparedness level to 5 on July 18th. The Northwest experienced the largest increase in fire activity. Dry lightning is particularly dangerous because a thunderstorm provides ignition without enough rain to wet the ground. Moisture may fall from the cloud but evaporate before reaching the surface. Lightning then strikes vegetation that has already been dried by heat, low humidity, drought, and wind. A lightning bust can create dozens or hundreds of separate starts in a few hours. Fire agencies must detect each one, determine whether it is growing, and decide which incidents require immediate attack. Some remain small. Others are hidden by terrain or smoke until they have already escaped initial control. The atmosphere can intensify it. A thunderstorm's outflow winds may reach fires far from the rain core, suddenly changing direction and speed. A crew working on a quiet edge can face a new head fire within minutes when a gust front arrives. Terrain adds another multiplier. Fire usually accelerates uphill because rising heat preheats vegetation above the flame front. Canyons can channel wind. Ridges create turbulence. Rolling material can ignite fuel below a crew, while falling trees and reduced visibility make escape routes more dangerous. Nighttime no longer guarantees the relief firefighters once expected. Crews often depend on cooler temperatures and rising humidity after sunset to strengthen line. When humidity recovery remains poor, flames continue moving through the night, forcing responders to work without the usual reduction in fire behavior. National statistics show how unusual the season has become. As of August 2nd, federal reporting listed 45,935 fires, and approximately 5.28 million acres burned nationwide during 2026. That acreage was about 142% of the 10-year average, for the same point in the year. The newer seasonal outlook used a slightly different reporting cutoff, and stated that more than 6 million acres had burned by July 31st, approximately 165% of the previous 10-year average. Differences between federal summaries can reflect reporting lag, adjustments, prescribed fire accounting, and the timing of data updates rather than a contradiction in the overall trend. The key signal is that fire activity is well above average while dangerous weeks remain. August and September can bring prolonged heat, dry cold fronts, low humidity, lightning, and powerful wind events across the Northwest, Northern Rockies, and Great Basin. The August outlook forecasts above normal significant fire potential across most of the northwestern United States, extending from central Utah, northwest Colorado, western Wyoming, and northwest Montana westward to the Pacific coast and northeast California. Above normal potential is not a prediction that a specific town will burn. It means the combination of fuel conditions and expected weather increases the likelihood that new fires will become large enough to require substantial suppression resources. In a level 5 environment, that probability carries more weight because the system is already heavily committed. The outlook also indicates that elevated potential may persist into September across Oregon, Washington, Idaho, northern Montana, northern Nevada, northern Utah, northeast California, and parts of the northern plains. Relief may arrive unevenly, leaving some regions exposed longer than others. Drought has persisted or intensified in the northwest, Great Basin, Colorado, and northern New Mexico. July precipitation was below normal along much of the west coast and in parts of northern Idaho and Montana, helping vegetation remain receptive to ignition despite occasional storms. Heat is another concern. Predictive Services expected at least one extended heat wave during the first week of August, while lightning remained the largest wildcard for the following 1 to 2 months. A few moistening periods may slow fire behavior locally, but they will not automatically end a regional emergency. Colorado shows why national attention cannot remain fixed only on Oregon and Washington. The Aspen Acres fire had burned nearly 102,000 acres and reached roughly 67% containment. Federal reporting listed more than 900 structures lost, making recovery a crisis of its own even as crews continued securing the perimeter. Containment can stop future spread, but it cannot reverse a destroyed neighborhood. Families returning after evacuation may face ash, unstable walls, damaged water systems, blocked roads, insurance disputes, lost vehicles, dead livestock, and uncertainty over whether rebuilding is financially possible. The Gold Mountain fire had burned almost 40,000 acres and reached approximately 72% containment. Crews were still working steep terrain where access, elevation, weather, and falling hazards complicate every operation. Even a mostly contained mountain fire can remain dangerous to firefighters and nearby infrastructure. Across the Great Basin, 23 active incidents accounted for more than 345,000 cumulative acres and over 2,400 personnel. Nevada's Quail Springs fire remained only partly contained, While new incidents in Utah and Idaho continued drawing resources into a region known for fast-moving grass and brush fires, California appeared calmer than the Northwest in the latest national summary, with several large incidents showing high containment. But the state was not outside the danger zone. A new fire near Hopland was showing wind-driven and uphill runs while threatening structures and forcing evacuations. Lower California activity can create a false sense that the worst has passed. The state still has dry vegetation, large populations in fire-prone areas, complex terrain, and months of potential wind events. One ignition during the wrong afternoon can transform the national resource map. Large fires were also burning outside the West. In Minnesota, the Bear Trap and Sioux fires were affecting tens of thousands of acres in the Superior National Forest, threatening structures and communications infrastructure while requiring evacuations and closures. National scarcity means those incidents compete for many of the same federal resources. Smoke expands the emergency far beyond the flame perimeter. Plumes from Oregon and Washington can travel across Idaho, the Northern Plains, the Great Lakes, and farther east, depending on upper-level winds. A community hundreds of miles away may experience unhealthy air without seeing a single nearby flame. The main health concern in wildfire smoke is fine particulate matter, known as PM 2.5. These particles are small enough to travel deep into the lungs and may enter the bloodstream. Short-term exposure can cause burning eyes, coughing, throat irritation, headaches, chest discomfort, and difficulty breathing. People with asthma, chronic lung disease, cardiovascular conditions, or other existing health problems face greater risk. Children, older adults, pregnant people, outdoor workers, and anyone without reliable indoor filtration may also experience higher exposure during prolonged smoke events. The safest response is to reduce smoke entering indoor air. Windows and doors should remain closed when conditions are poor. Air conditioning can be placed on recirculate where appropriate, and a properly fitted N95 or KN95 respirator can reduce particle exposure when going outside is unavoidable. A loose cloth covering is not equivalent to a respirator designed to filter fine particles. Fit matters because air follows the easiest path around gaps. People experiencing severe breathing difficulty, chest pain, confusion, or worsening medical symptoms should seek professional medical care rather than relying only on household measures. Extreme heat compounds the smoke problem. Power outages can remove air conditioning, refrigeration, and medical equipment at the same time. Residents are advised to remain indoors. Evacuation centers must protect people from both smoke exposure and dangerous temperatures, especially when thousands are displaced. Wildfire disasters do not end when the main front passes. Burned slopes may later produce debris flows. Ash and sediment can enter streams. Damaged trees fall across roads. Utility systems require inspection. Small businesses lose weeks of income while tourism, agriculture, forestry, and transportation remain disrupted. Fire can also create cascading failures. A falling tree can damage a power line. Lost electricity can stop pumps. Broken communication systems can delay evacuation alerts. Road closures can lengthen ambulance routes. Each failure increases pressure on another system already operating under emergency conditions. Scientists and fire managers are watching far more than flame length. They are tracking fuel moisture, wind, humidity, atmospheric instability, lightning probability, drought, smoke movement, crew fatigue, aircraft availability, and the behavior of every major incident across the national map. They are also watching whether containment gains outpace new ignitions. A large Oregon fire may release crews after reaching a secure stage, but 3 new Washington fires can immediately absorb them. The national situation improves only when total demand declines, not when one famous incident becomes quieter. The most important short-term signal will be the arrival of critical fire weather. Strong winds combined with single-digit or very low humidity can turn smoldering edges into active fronts. Crews may spend days constructing line only to see embers cross it during one severe afternoon. The next signal is nighttime humidity recovery. If fuels remain dry after sunset, firefighters lose the safer window normally used for direct attack. Persistent overnight burning also increases smoke production and prevents exhausted crews from gaining the progress expected during cooler hours. Lightning remains another major variable. A storm may provide meaningful rain in one valley while producing dry strikes and powerful outflow winds 20 miles away. Forecasts can identify areas of concern, but the exact location of each ignition cannot be known in advance. Resource availability may become the decisive signal of all. Fire managers can know where a fire is likely to move and still lack enough crews or aircraft to attack every priority simultaneously. Preparedness. Level 5 exists because operational capacity is part of the hazard, not merely a response detail. Residents in fire-prone areas must prepare before smoke appears. Local alert systems should be activated, evacuation zones understood, vehicles kept fueled, phones charged, and more than one exit route identified. Waiting to see flames can remove the safest opportunity to leave. A go bag should contain identification, medication, water, chargers, protective masks, basic clothing, important contacts, and copies of essential insurance or property documents. Families must also plan for children, older relatives, people with disabilities, pets, and livestock before an evacuation order arrives. Level 1 usually means prepare. Level 2 means be ready to leave immediately. Level 3 means go now. Exact terminology can vary by jurisdiction, so residents must follow local instructions rather than assuming every county uses identical language. Evacuation decisions are based on information residents may not be able to see from their homes. Fire can be hidden behind terrain. Embers may arrive before the main front. Smoke can make distance impossible to judge. A road that is open now may become unusable minutes later. Unauthorized drones create another serious danger. If a drone enters an active fire area, helicopters and air tankers may be forced to leave for safety. A person attempting to record dramatic footage can remove aviation support at the exact moment firefighters and threatened communities need it most. Human-caused ignitions are especially unacceptable during this level of national strain. Hot vehicle parts in dry grass, dragging trailer chains, unsecured campfires, outdoor equipment, burning debris, and other sparks can create incidents that consume resources already needed elsewhere. Preventing one ignition may sound insignificant beside a 300,000-acre complex. In reality, one avoided fire may keep an engine in a threatened community, preserve a helicopter for a lightning start, or prevent another incident management team from being pulled into a new emergency. The coming weeks will show whether the Northwest can turn massive staffing and aviation support into durable containment before another major weather event. Several fires are gaining control line, but many others remain at zero or low containment while new incidents continue appearing. Kaiser Canyon may improve, yet another lightning outbreak could create a replacement emergency. Roe Creek may release crews, but a wind-driven fire near Spokane could require them immediately. This is why the national map can remain critical even when individual containment numbers rise. The timing is what makes the situation especially concerning. The United States reached its highest preparedness level before the traditional late summer peak had fully passed. August and September still carry the potential for heat, dry fronts, lightning, and strong winds across large portions of the West. No responsible forecaster can say exactly how severe the rest of the season will become. Weather can shift, rain can arrive, and crews can stop new ignitions before they expand. But the current workload means there is less room for another widespread outbreak than there would be during an average year. There is danger in becoming numb to the numbers. 100,000 acres begins to sound ordinary. 40 structures become one line in a report. Tens of thousands of evacuees turn into a statistic. That familiarity hides the individual losses behind every perimeter. Every burned home held photographs, documents, furniture, tools, and private memories. Every damaged ranch represented years of labor. Every closure affected workers and businesses. Every evacuation replaced ordinary life with the question of whether anything would remain when people returned. For communities on the Colville Reservation, the crisis extends beyond property. Sacred places, cultural landscapes, traditional resources, burial sites, and community history have been placed in the path of a disaster that can transform land in a single afternoon. For firefighters, the emergency is measured in long shifts beneath unstable trees, heat, smoke, and changing wind. It is a radio message that a spot fire has crossed the line. It is an evacuation route that must remain open. It is knowing another crew elsewhere is facing the same conditions.